If you like doll play, if you like dioramas, if you like doll houses and miniatures, please stay with us. And hi guys, it's Anna from Kit and Kat Shop, and this is the first part in our series where we're building a diorama. And I'm going to show you the new diorama kits. We are using the one that has a window, and our theme is, well, a nursery. I don't normally do baby dolls, but I had come across, and everybody's very familiar with these little silicone rubber babies that come in the little mystery balls. And I have a few, and they're about 1.5 inches or so tall, so they're actually a little bit bigger than 1/12 scale. They would work as a very small baby for maybe 1/6 scale, so, but I think they'll work for our 1/12 scale nursery. So, and what we'll do is the videos will kind of go through the process of each step, or basically how I finish something each week. And this is the first one, so it's just going to kind of show you some of the materials I had collected, my color scheme, and some of my ideas. So I did cheat a little bit. I went ahead and bought a pre-made crib, but we will be making a mattress and sheets, blankets, etc. for that. I have made one wall shelf. And let me show you the diorama pieces. So the dioramas are set up so that you can choose either 2 solid walls, or a solid wall and a window, or a solid wall and a door, or if you wanted, you could probably combine them. They are specifically sized to fit in your standard cubby shelf for storage and display. It has 2 sides, so one outside can be finished and decorated, i.e. the outside or exterior of the window, so that you could kind of put these in and create a dollhouse out of a cubby if you wanted to. They are, I don't have exact measurements for you. I'll probably put them in the listing for the kit, but basically they're sized to fit in most of your 11.5 to 12-inch cube shelves. Now that's going to be like the Target, the Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, you know, like I said, the general ones. The IKEA ones, if you have those, they're actually a little larger. Some of those are closer to 13 inches, but the smaller ones tend to be in this same size. Okay. So when you get your diorama kit, in this case, I'm doing the window kit. I have my base for the kit. And I'm going to kind of consider this the subfloor, and that'll make more sense later on. I have my plain wall, and both the plain wall and the wall with the window or door have several score marks on them. And what those marks are for is to let you know what is your ceiling. And these rooms are taller than a typical 1/12 scale room, because the idea is these can also be used as photography. So we're kind of getting into stagecraft, where stage sets are usually taller so that when you have the camera or the point of view is lower, you're not going to see past or outside. So we have our ceiling mark for our crown. I went ahead and put in a mark for your standard chair rail height. So if you wanted to do wallpaper and paint, or you wanted to do some wainscoting with wood, you have that mark so that you can make sure that it stays straight. And then down here, there's a little mark just 1/8 of an inch above where your subfloor fits. And that is to kind of let you know where your wainscoting would need to end, because that's where your baseboard's going to go. And most of the flooring that we use for doll houses, whether it's a faux carpet faux wood, even if you use the popsicle sticks. That's kind of the gap that you'll need for those. Now for this one, the window wall, your window is going to come with the fallout, is what it's called, included. And there is a small score line on that, which is important because for the back side of your window, you have a trim piece. And you can use that score mark to make sure that it's centered because it's slightly smaller on the inside, so it creates this lip. And that lip is necessary because this is a working window because, you know, typical of Corey and I, if it's an outfit that has pockets, the pockets have to work. So in this case, if it's a window, the window has to work. Now, with traditional doll houses, windows can get very complicated. And this is to kind of bridge the gulf between someone who's used to building dioramas or playing with dolls and someone who's more familiar with miniatures and doll houses. So our window, the back sash, has these spacers. That would go in first. And then your bottom sash is sized to fit on top. Then you have your other piece of window frame. And when you put that on there, that should close the gap and allow just enough room for that bottom sash to go up and down. And then you also have your little windowsill piece, which you can glue in there. So if you wanted to have the window open and wanted to put a plant on the windowsill, you'll have that space covered. Now, these pieces are plain, and I did not include glazing material in the kits because if you're wanting to do this so it's a stationary window, you can use something thicker, like a thin sheet of acrylic, a piece of clear poly or polyacrylic. I would try to stick around the 1/16 inch, no more than that. And I would put it on the outside of your lower sash and on the outside of your upper sash. What I'm going to use is actually basically packaging. You can get like the overhead sheets. I call them overhead sheets. You can get transparency sheets, is usually what they're called now. And you can also use packaging plastic. I actually use the top of the croissant containers Corey gets from Costco. They're very good. They're readily available. You've got plenty in one box to cover. And the thickness is good so that you're not going to have a huge buildup or thickness so that that window can be glazed and can still move. Okay. And I have talked about, I think previously, about how because these kits are actually cut, made to order, if you do want to use standard dollhouse windows and doors, all you have to do is make a note in your order and let us know what the dimensions need to be for the opening, and we can adjust those for you. Okay. So those are our 3 pieces. I do have off screen some clapboard siding because I think on the outside that is the window wall, I want to make that look like the outside of the nursery. And I also have some little pre-purchased window shutters to go on that side as well. I'm thinking about maybe doing some trailing vines, some gardening, maybe kind of take the theme of the nursery from the inside to the outside because the outside is the theme on the inside. It'll make sense in a second. So the inspiration piece is this piece of flannel. I've had it for quite a while. It features little animals, our favorite, the fox. We also have squirrels and hedgehogs and rabbits and owls. And I thought this was a really cute nursery print. And I can see using a lot of the motifs maybe the tree, to create little scenes, maybe make some plushies out of some of the little felt animals. And then also kind of picked my color palette for the nursery project because I'm trying to make this gender neutral. We'll see how that works. So, and then we do also have some assorted cottons in little mini prints where the colors kind of coordinate. I might see about making a quilt or a blanket. I have some waffle in 2 different scales, 2 different colors to make some additional blankets. And just some muslin for our basics. Picking up from it, I thought maybe it'd be kind of fun to wallpaper the walls, well, at least halfway. So I did pick up this package of scrapbook paper, which was in the same colors. I tried to pick things that were more like non-specific designs because I didn't want to try to pick more woodland creatures that might clash with my flannel. We'll see. And then I have my chalk paint. Now the kits are MDF, which is a fiberboard. Think of it as heat compressed sawdust and glue. They are 1/4 of an inch, so they should resist warping, which is really important. But I find that I like it. It cuts very easily in our machines, in our tools, in our workshop. There's no knots or, you know, that kind of thing that we have to deal with to cut around. And it takes paint very well. Now, I did mention in the beginning of the video about sealing it. When you're using MDF, I do always recommend that you use something called a sanding sealer. It kind of soaks into the fibers of the MDF so that you can sand it without too much mess. But when it comes down to painting, they're kind of pre-primed for you. And my favorite paints are either the flat or eggshell paints that you can get from the home improvement centers. Usually those are enough to do several dioramas. And I usually try to get those in kind of your basic colors, creams, whites, pale grays. I generally don't use a white or a bright white in my dioramas because I find when it comes to photography, if it's a very bright white, it wants to reflect back light into the diorama from photography, which can mess with the shadows and kind of hurt that illusion that the tiny thing is actually full size. So I usually stick with an off-white or a warm white depending on the other colors. Another paint that I really like because it has good coverage and it has the right finish I want are chalk paints. And I actually have 3 of them here. I have this kind of warm, creamy milk color. This one's called sheepskin. I have a oatmeal, which is kind of a green-brown color. It's not quite brown, it's got a lot of green to it. And I have Cascade, which is kind of a warm tealy blue, which will pick up in that fabric. So I've got my paints for my trim, my wall, accents. I do want to build, in addition to my crib, I want a changing table to go underneath the window. And I want to paint my shelf to match it to go over the crib. So, and then with the crib, as I mentioned earlier, I do want to do the mattress. I want to do the bumpers, which are the little quilted padded pieces that go around, and some blankets and some sheets. So to that end, I got me these pearl cottons, which pick up the warm tones. And I tried, there's a little bit of lavender, but I'm trying to keep toward the oranges and maybe add some blues. We'll see. But like I said, I'm trying to keep to a gender neutral nursery. So we have those pieces. And then for the flooring, I think I want to do a popsicle stick floor, or in the past I have done a coffee stirrer floor, which looks like a narrow plank, like a bamboo floor. but I think I want to do maybe a painted finish on the floor and a rug. And so I've got my pearl cotton for crochet and knitting, and then I made duplicate because you can usually find DMC colors that match the pearl cottons, and I have some cross stitch fabric which makes a really good base for a rug because I don't want something very shaggy or fluffy. I don't think. I do have some faux fur that's in a brown. I might make a little baby basket or a bassinet. So my plans right now are the nursery with the shelf to display some of the accessories that come with the little mini babies, and a changing table to hold their little diapers and powder and stuff. And Corey has an idea for surprise, but we're going to keep that toward later. So there'll be 3 pieces of furniture in the nursery. And then when I'm done with the nursery, we will do some photography. You'll get to walk through the nursery. And I think it may go on the store and see if somebody would like to adopt the nursery along with the babies. I have different skin tones of babies, so I think that with the nursery and the 3 skin tones, that'll be nice because then you can pick which baby gets to stay in the nursery. And if I have time and energy and it doesn't take too long, I'm thinking of making a layette with some of the leftover pearl cotton. So the baby has booties, bonnet, and sweater to wear in the nursery. So that's what we've got going so far. I've got my apron on. I'm going to go get my sealer, and I will see you in the next video to kind of show you where we're at the end of that week. Stick with me, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you can see the progress of this. We also have other videos on some of our kits, some of our small furniture pieces and that Corey's been working on, as well as other crafts such as sewing and knitting and stories and all of that. So if you like doll play, if you like dioramas, if you like doll houses and miniatures, please stay with us. And next time, bye-bye.